You might think that the person with the world's highest IQ would be too busy doing research or solving complex problems to talk to someone like me. But today I got lucky. I left a comment on his YouTube channel and he replied. This self-proclaimed world IQ record holder actually took the time to have a conversation with me. And as it turns out, he's a Christian who actively promotes the faith. So if you are a Christian viewer, this might come as a good news. His channel has 15,000 subscribers and growing. Apparently, he's gained enough attention that someone on my channel tried to defend Christianity by pointing out that the world's most intelligent person respects the Bible. And I'm pretty sure they were referring to this same YouTuber. After all, there can only be one person with the highest IQ in the world, right? In every one of his videos, he calls himself the world's highest IQ record holder. Personally, I wouldn't do that, but maybe he has his reasons my humble brain cannot quite grasp. He even has a website with the domain name iq276.com. Clearly, he wants the whole world to know about his record. And if that were true, there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But is it true? Is this Christian really the most intelligent person on earth? Let's take a closer look. Hello my friends, this is Shane from Mindful Living. Welcome to the channel. The goal of my videos is to help viewers become more mindful of their beliefs, whether religious or otherwise. I think this is important because, as you may have noticed, not everything we hear is true. I know, right? Very disheartening. These days, the ability to think critically and question what we are told is more important than ever. False information spreads quickly online, and it's easy to get caught up in themes that sound good but don't hold up under scrutiny. So whether you're religious or not, I think we can all agree it's bad to be gullible, and good to be able to spot nonsense. That's what this channel is about. Anyway, back to the world's most intelligent person. This guy, YoungHoon Kim, claims to have an IQ of 276. That's impressive. The thing is, the highest score you can get from a standardized IQ test is usually around 160. So a score of 276 couldn't have come from one of those tests. That's a red flag already. I mean, I could create a test myself and claim I scored 277, just barely beating Kim. I could say I am now the record holder. In your face, Kim. But who would believe that, right? Amazingly, Kim has 15,000 subscribers. A lot of people believe his story. So who are these people? If you check the comment sections on his videos, it becomes pretty clear they are mostly Christians. That makes sense since his channel focuses on Christian apologetics and defending the credibility of the Bible. Still, I would expect more people to question whether he is telling the truth. From what I've seen, not many are doing that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I find it hard to believe his claim. Do you think I'm justified in being skeptical? Leave a comment and let me know what you think. So this got me thinking. Why do some Christians seem ready to believe whatever claim they hear as long as the person saying it is also a Christian? Is it possible they were taught that way? Were they encouraged to shut down their critical thinking and reasoning skills? That's a bit unsettling, isn't it? Then I looked again at the comment on my channel that mentioned Kim. The commenter said, "Dude, even the person with the world's highest IQ doesn't deny the legitimacy of the Bible. You should debate Wes Huff." So this person believes Kim's claim and also supports Wes Huff. For those who don't know him, Wes Huff is a Christian apologist. I've made several videos critiquing his attempts to defend Christianity. In one of them, I talk about his use of circular reasoning, or what philosophers call begging the question. It's a logical fallacy. Surprisingly, I've received more than one comment defending this approach. They argue it's fine to use circular reasoning because Wes is speaking to fellow believers. Since they already believe the Bible is true, it's supposedly okay to use the Bible to prove itself. They don't see any issue with that. To them, empirical verification isn't necessary. That's wild. I was honestly shocked. I haven't seen this kind of defense show up in videos where I critique other Christians. Some of Weishaupt's fans actually believe circular reasoning is a legitimate method. It's as if their ability to think critically has been compromised. So I can't help but think this. If Christians are taught that sloppy logic is acceptable when it reinforces their beliefs, it's no surprise they become receptive to any claim, as long as it comes from a fellow Christian and makes the faith look good. A person claims to have an IQ of 276 and happens to be a Christian, that fits the narrative, so many just believe it without thinking it through. Let me be clear, this is exactly how people get scammed. They lower their guard and accept what they are told. I'm not saying this to mock Christians, but to raise awareness. Some of us may be living in environments where critical thinking is discouraged, and that has real-world consequences. If you are a Christian, I hope you'll hear me out. Not everything you hear in church is true. Not everything that makes Christianity look good is necessarily real. I'm not trying to offend you when I say this. I'm simply asking you to keep using your critical thinking even when it comes to your religion. It's for your sake, not mine. Some of you might be thinking, but Shen, even if Kim is lying, we know the disciples of Jesus weren't. They were persecuted for proclaiming that Jesus was the Son of God and had risen from the dead. That makes their testimony more credible than Kim's. If Kim were threatened with death, he'd probably confess it was all fake. But the disciples didn't. I get where that's coming from, but here's the thing. What if the martyrdom story wasn't objective confirmation, but part of the message early Christianity was promoting? The truth is, outside of Christian sources, we don't have any independent records confirming that the disciples, people who would have been in a position to know whether the resurrection happened, were given the chance to recant, refused, and then died for that belief. Yes, it's true that some of the disciples were killed, but we don't have solid evidence that directly links their deaths to an unwavering commitment to testify that they personally saw the risen Jesus. In fact, we don't have any clear first-hand accounts from the disciples themselves confirming their testimony. Take the Gospels of Matthew and John, for example. They are often thought to be written by Jesus' disciples, but the authors never actually identified themselves. Those names were added later by Christian tradition. You'd think that if putting their names on the text would make it more credible, they would have done it. But all four Gospels are written in the third person, not as first-hand reports. And that raises a fair question. If Jesus' disciples were all preaching the resurrection, why didn't any of them leave behind a written record in their own names, something their fellow Christians could point to as solid proof when spreading the gospel? I've made a few videos that go into this issue in more detail, and I'll leave links to those in the description below. Now, just to be clear, I'm not encouraging cynicism. That's not what critical thinking is about. It's about asking questions like, where is the evidence? How do I know this is true? And would I believe it if someone from another religion said the same thing? That's all I'm suggesting. Now, I'm not saying Christians are the only ones vulnerable to this. Anyone can fall into confirmation bias, but religious communities often reward certainty over doubt. They usually don't emphasize critical thinking, and they have strong incentives to promote commitment to doctrine rather than open questioning. That kind of environment can easily reinforce groupthink. Groupthink happens when people in a community go along with an idea, not because it makes the most sense, but because it's what everyone else believes or expects them to believe. Questioning it might make you feel like an outsider, so you stay silent, even if something doesn't add up. That's why I think anyone who regularly goes to church should be especially mindful of this dynamic. Then again, maybe atheists and secular humanists are just as gullible. Maybe I should go ahead and take my own IQ test, give myself a score of 277, and rename this channel Mindful Living IQ 277. Let's see how many subscribers I can get. That might tell us how easy it is to fool non-religious people too. If you are interested in the topic of confirmation bias, I have another video that explores how Christians are often capable of sound critical thinking, just not when the subject is their own faith. You can click on the screen to watch that one. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.